IVM.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into a show about crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Here's your smart fact of the day. Have you seen this series called Explained on Netflix? In one of the episodes, it's an episode on time. And this is where the inspiration for this episode of Smarter with Sid comes from. Let's begin with a very weird anecdote this time around. There was a guy who went into a cave around New Year's time to spend an entire week inside a cave and to try and figure out what happens when all perceptions of how time is flowing are actually taken away from a man or a woman who is inside this cave. And this guy kind of settled into a circadian rhythm, which was more or less meaning that he was sleeping for the required 8 hours and he was awake for the rest of the time. And so therefore, his time was managed by his body. But the funny thing is, this person lost all aspect of calendar time, which meant that he lost sense of days and months, and he actually came out a few more days later than what he thought was January 1. So while he retained the day-to-day time within the body, which meant day and night, because it was already programmed within each and every cell of his body, the calendar time was completely lost. This is what I want to find out in today's episode of Smarter with Sid. Can we manage time differently? Actually, what I realized was the way in which we are managing time is so totally dependent upon so many different things. First of all, it starts off with culture. Now, if you belong to the linear time management structure, which most business environments are in, we are forcing ourselves to think like maybe North Americans do or Northern European countries do, which is, follow one task over the other and stuff like that. There is another time management perspective, which is the multi-time management perspective, which means focus on happiness and how time is contributing to the overall happiness index in your life, which happens in, let's say, Southern European countries. And then there is the cyclical time management perspective, which says that time is never wasted. Everything is cyclical, like seasons, etc. And so therefore, you have a very limited way in which you can manage time. This perspective does shape the way in which cultures behave in Japan, China, and a lot of Asia. So a lot of it has got to do with culture. Then it also depends upon your personality. The way in which you are, are you a nocturnal person? Are you a day person? Are you somebody who gets energized by focusing on many things at one time or just one thing at one time and the rest of it? And most of us, what I realized, my aha moment was that we tend not to consider any of these things when we start trying to manage our calendars, manage our times, manage our meetings and the rest of it. So is there a better way in which we can do this? I've always been interested in managing my time better because I used to think that if I manage my time better, I'll be able to manage my life better. I'll be able to produce better results for myself and all the stuff that is important for me. And so therefore, I started looking at time management, and the most important framework that has helped me so far till very recently, and I'll talk about my recent aha moment a little more later, was the Stephen Covey four action framework, which was, there are some tasks which are urgent and important. There are some tasks which are only urgent. There are some tasks which are only important. There are some tasks which are time suckers or nice to haves. And I think the most important thing is for you to be aware of which activity falls in which quadrant, and then deciding on prioritizing activities which are, important, which normally get sacrificed for the urgent or the nice to haves. And I used to like that sort of management. And I still do it. But I've realized that is not enough, because If I look at it from a really philosophical perspective, time management is managing an abstract thing which may or may not necessarily be there. And I realize that whatever I might do for time management, I'm not suddenly going to be a very different person from my cultural roots and my personality roots to suddenly start achieving super normal results for a sustained period of time. So then what do I do? So what I have to do is give up this, completely, and look at energy management instead. And that was my aha moment. And so I started looking at energy as a very vital factor as to, how I can achieve maximum results from whatever I'm doing. And the more I delved into it, the more surprised I got. For instance, what I realized was that all of us have only about 3 to 5 hours of optimum energy or maximum energy, wherein we normally do a lot of work in, and the rest of it is either a tapering up or a tapering down. Now, if I know that there are 3 to 5 hours that I can actually focus my energy on, then which tasks will I choose to actually do in that time period? And what is the time period? So for me, the time period is late morning and maybe a little bit in the late afternoon. Other time periods are not so, effective or efficient. Is there a way in which I can structure my timetable, the way in which I'm managing time based upon the energy that I have got? And I realized that by just making this change, making this flip, it has helped me with tremendously different results. For instance, now I know that the most creative pieces that I really cherish and what I want to do, the preparation for a class, for instance, or the preparation of any content that I'm doing, including this podcast, has to be in times of high energy and productivity. Because that is when, the best of me will come through. And the other times I need to actually manage for doing, those pieces of work which need to be done, which are routinized and the rest of it. Now, you might argue and say, hey, that's all okay for somebody who's kind of self employed. But how about somebody who is working to somebody else's rhythm, an organization's rhythm, or a boss's rhythm, and the rest of it? And yes, it does become more difficult, but it becomes way easier if you are aware of the way in which your energy is manifesting, and you are able to communicate that absolutely wonderfully to your boss and to your team and the rest of it. And you will find that just by communicating this, you might actually end up giving them an aha moment as well, and allow for better results, not just for you, but for your boss and for your team. And that can be a tremendous win for all. I'm also beginning to question this whole idea of balance. And it has been a central defining feature for me to have a balance between, work, life, relationships, health, wealth, etc. And that is the way in which I was subconsciously doing things. But by just being aware of the fact that I require balance in order to be happy has helped me manage my time better too. And sometimes I do understand that if you're passionate, then you go out of balance. But then being aware of the fact that I'm dealing in passion, and so therefore balance doesn't really count when I'm dealing in passion, it suddenly makes things better. I think overall, if I take a step back, I understand that just by being aware of the difference between passion and balance, I'm tending to work towards passion and not balance a lot of more times. And secondly, even in those times when I'm trying to achieve a perfect balance, I'm doing so with complete level of awareness. So to conclude, and by no means is this my final word on the subject or anybody's final word on the subject, I'm trying to manage my energy nowadays much more than what I'm trying to manage my time. Of course, I have to appear on a lecture at the appointed time, or I have to do a few things like all of us at the appropriate sort of time in from a calendar perspective as well as a time perspective. But bringing a level of awareness that allows me to connect to my energy and understanding the amount of energy I have at my disposal also allows me to deliver on that specific task or that particular event in a much better way. So I'm going to include energy management in addition to calendar time management as a practical solution that will make me at least 1% better in this aspect. And I thought I'll share that with you because Smarter with Sid is all about all of us getting smarter, with a few little things that you can learn from going down deep into first principles. I hope you like this particular episode of Smarter with Sid. And hey, I'm the traveling professor. Do connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram or whenever your energy and time is connected to my energy and time. On that happy note then, see you next week.
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. An app for extramarital relationships sounds interesting? Well, it exists, and it's booming. On KBCD, Farad and Sunetru talked to Sybil Shadel from Gleeden, a dating service primarily marketed to women. On Simplified, the gang discussed the phenomena of sports washing illustrated by the recent Saudi takeover of the Newcastle United Football Club. On the Life Manifesto, Serena explains various lessons from Charlie Plum's life and how we can apply them to our own lives. On Say No to Drama, Chetna is here to slice the drama around workaholics and help understand the consequences of our choices. And learn how to simplify your personal finances on Paisa Vaisa as Anupam speaks to co-founders of 5Money, Sujit Narayan and Sumit Golani. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Slate Coffee, Intel, Kotak Mahindra Bank, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
पेश खिदमत है आपकी शान में हमारे अंजुमन से. Hi, I am Sadaf.
And I'm Arshit. खाने का इतिहास, economics, policy, psychology, सब है मेन्यू पे.
Only on the Nankali podcast every Wednesday. सिर्फ IVM podcast app या वेबसाइट पर या फिर जहां से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो.